We're back. What the fuck? What is this person talking about? What is this person talking about? Oh. I was like... Come on. Can we please get this done, please? Thank you. Please, 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 please. It's working. It's working. Oh my god. I said it's working. I look so spooky. Yes. I was gonna tell spooky stories like this. I wasn't sure how I was gonna go about it. So for now we play games like this. Look at my spooky story thing. My glasses make my eyes do weird things. Look. Does it look like I'm behind the fire? I literally cannot see anything. But yeah, we're gonna do stories whenever we get... I didn't want it to be a floating head, but then at the same time I was like, eh. Like I kind of wanted it to be like somebody back here behind telling a story, but it looks weird. I should have put myself in a crystal ball, huh? Can't see anything. A blind, disembodied floating head. I'm going to tell you how to summon the devil in a little while. If you're going to stick around, that's the story. It's basically the story of how to sell your soul to the devil, a practical step-by-step guide. It's very interesting. So if you want to learn how to sell your soul to the devil, stick around because we're going to learn how to sell our soul to the devil. Hold on. Why is it not capturing my game? Hold on. I have somebody commenting on one of my videos and it's like, I need a friend too. I actually have one friend, aside from you guys of course, but I have one best friend. She's my absolute best friend. Oh man, funnel cake sounds great. Amen, Python, how are you? I'm just trying to fucking... Oh, look. Hey, here we go. Dying light. Okay, cool, cool. I'm so huge. Holy shit. I wish my green screen was working, but it's not working right now. Just because of the filter and everything looks weird. Also, the filter comes off when I drink my beer. It's so funny. So we're going to play some Dying Light for a little bit. Just until we get some people. And then I'm going to show you how to sell your soul to the devil. Well, not show you, but explain it, maybe. We'll figure it out together. 'Tis the spooky season. I hope you're well, Python.
Holy shit!
Holy crap.
There's a lot to be done around the tower.
I can't hear shit. Why can't I hear anything? Oh, because it's turned down. Hello, bro. Okay, so believe it or not, I've like actually gotten better at this game. I know you won't believe it, but I have. I need to freaking get this bolter, but I definitely don't want to get the bolter. A bit tired? Yeah. It's been a really long day. Today was also really hot. Actually, you know what? I would just rather talk to you guys. I'm not trying to play games right now. We're not gonna play games right now. We're gonna talk about scary stuff. It's not so much of a floating head anymore. Kind of still a floating head, but not really a floating head. So let's see. We've been watching a lot of space stuff lately. Scary space stuff, but let's see weirdly interesting stuff. So tomorrow, I think we're gonna try to do some rando nodding. Do you know what that is? I'm sure you guys know what rando nodding is. Oh, the face, yeah. I'm not supposed to smile with the filter because like close up, it has like teeth already, but I also have teeth, so like, and I have like everything all like weird. It's horrible, horrible. So Randonautica is this app. Let me show it to you. Randonautica. Oh hell. Does it not work anymore? It works when it wants to. It doesn't work anymore. Hold on. So basically you tell the app what you want. Restart the app, switch your phone on and off, reinstall the app. So basically you put in the app where you want to go. Let me remove it. And you say that you want to see something specific. So I want to go somewhere close to me. I want to see death, or I want to see horror, or I want to see just like stuff like that. It gives you like a list of things that you want to see. Hold on. Let me find a good one. And then it takes you to like random coordinates that are kind of like close to you. And it's supposed to show you what you are looking to see. There's a lot of videos like on YouTube of people, like there was this one person, I guess, or a group of people who had found a body in a suitcase. Granted, I hope I don't find a body in a suitcase, but I think it would be fun to do. Rando nodding, not finding bodies in suitcases. Okay, so this is not what I want. Let me get this Randonautica. Anyway, so I think we're going to the zoo tomorrow, so I think that this is something that we can do just for like shits and giggles. But if it's gonna ask me to like walk in the middle of the forest, that is just not gonna happen. I'm pretty cautious when it comes to crazy shit. Yeah, Brandonautica. Okay. Damn, I wish I could show it to you on here, but I think I would get a copyright strike if I did. So basically, okay, let me see if I can find something crazy stuff found on Randonautica. Stuff found on Randonautica. Why am I typing in caps? Randonautica, weirdest things people have experienced. The app, hold on. So it lets you set an intention. Okay, so this is a creepy Randonautica adventures that people have experienced during their quarantine. So it says, a reminder, Randonautica is an app that asks you to set an intention, then gives you a randomly generated set of coordinates in your area. With the same intention in mind, you're encouraged to go on an adventure to the location and see if you spot any weird coincidences. Here are some bizarre stories that have been shared while on the Randonauts subreddit about encounters that they have experienced while using the app. Damn, I wish I could share this. I'm gonna share screen. Hold on. Let's see it. Okay, ready? So my intention was glitch, kind of looking for a sign to know if the reality we live in is a simulation. Guess I found it. And it says, this is the sign that you've been looking for. It's crazy, right? Go, okay. I tried out the app while on a call to a friend. I've been questioning my sexuality and it brought me here. First time randonauting, my intention was money, and I found an abandoned mansion with this way to go underneath. The greed wasn't enough to let me go under there. Randonautica, looking for a sign. I lost my son to overdose in 2015. Around his birthday, I set my intention of where I can meet up with my kid. The app took me to this tiny unmarked trail where there is a bench that sat alone in the middle of the woods. I sat down and soaked up the energy. First time Randonauts user. My 8-year-old daughter wanted to come across fairy magic. Close, right? It's kind of cool, right? My intention to feeling less lonely in a big city. Exact point was a bench with my name on it. Well, that's strange. I would be freaked out about that. My intention was a sign that I am in the right relationship with the right person. Oh my God, why are you yelling? Intention was a sign from my late grandmother. Coordinates took me to this point. Her name was Betty Ann. Wow. Intend was something enticing. Lol. First time randonauting, we set our intention as peace and safety. Took us to a storm drain that we found an abandoned kitten in. What's up? We're talking about randonauting right now. My intention was confidence. This was painted on the letterbox. Intention was literally to find an abandoned car. I can't even tell you how excited when we spotted this. Intention was the apocalypse. First time randonauting. Intentions, something cool. It's a cool bus. Intention was asking about 2021 for me. Answer was danger, do not open. You can be badly hurt. In my opinion, randonaut users may match for most scenarios, and when it doesn't, we just try again with the app. Just have fun randonauting. Intention was something mystical. Yeah, I was talking about how tomorrow, like, we're going to go to the zoo and stuff, and I might try to randonaut, but the app is being weird. Art, A tractor found on a curb in a residential neighborhood. Intention was something interesting. I don't know how this is called, but connected two different houses on my city downtown. That's crazy. Intention was healing past relationships. Took me to the place where I first fell in love with this sign across the street from it. Forgive yourself. Wow, that's crazy. My intent was fly, and I found a baby hawk. Set our intention to meaning of life. We were brought here. Be happy. It's crazy. I want to do randonauting, but I'm like at the same time kind of afraid. Not only that, but like the app is being weird. Yeah, Randonautica. You just have to find the right one and just be safe when you do it because you never know. Like, there's some crazy people out there. There's like several apps for randonauting. Let me see. There's another one just called Randonaut. See, I would do it, but I definitely wouldn't do it by my freaking self. There's no way I would do it by myself. Heck no. So let's open this Randonauting. Welcome to Randonauting. Let's explore. This app is used by thousands of users all over the world, stumbling upon unexpected places. Track your own story. Random findings. Explore. See your location and request the next random point of interest to explore here. Learn and see. So, send my location. Okay, allow while using the app. Searching your location. Okay, it found my location. What our random algorithm should rely on. My device. Set radius. Get location. No, thank you. Is this not going to let me do it without paying? Because I'm not paying for it. Obviously. The other Randonautica one doesn't work. That's a bummer. I'm sure there's several other Randonautica stuff that you could download that would work. But anyway, yeah, Randonautica seems pretty awesome. Yay, my request for chubby cats has been approved. So what is everybody's plans for Halloween? Kathleen, I know that you're gonna go do a ritual or some rituals. Yeah, there's definitely like some really creepy stories about Randonautica. Let me see. My mouse is being really weird. Come on, stop being weird, mouse. Stop being weird, the mouse. Stop it. Oh, I dropped my Germex. Okay, so let's see. Get my Steam out. Let me see. All dolled up, looking pretty, ready to go. We're probably going to tell some scary stories in a little while. I have a story, How to Sell Your Soul to the Devil, step-by-step guide. I think that's the one that we're going to go with to start off with. I'm trying to see. Random Nautica. Stories from TikTok and from... I also have a TikTok that I joined. It's just been like for like stupid stuff though. Like I want to send my parents. I don't know if y'all have TikTok, but it's at Getting Spooky if you want to add me. So they have a Reddit. Let's check out the Reddit. Oh, the servers are down apparently. Well, that was 23 days ago, so... How to make friends with an older, sassy red person. Yes. So apparently a lot of people are having the white screen issue. The app is down apparently. The Kool-Aid Man? Hey, hey, hey. Oh, it's not the Kool-Aid Man didn't say hey, hey. That was like Fat Albert, wasn't it? I'm gonna join it. Apps like Randonautica. My husband's a super skeptic, so it's like if I take him to like places, he always has like, you know, the logical explanation. Hey, oh yeah, we're waiting to, I'm waiting to have more people here so I can show you guys how to sell your soul to the devil. It's a practical step-by-step guide. Practically sell your soul to the devil. It starts out pretty basic of how you find the devil. I think that's pretty good. Let's talk about 10 extinction events that nearly wiped out life for good. That sounds very upbeat. The Great Permian Extinction was one of the most severe in Earth's history. Also known as the Permian Triassic Extinction, this event from 252 million years ago was so traumatic that it took about 10 million years for the planet to fully recover from it. 96% of all marine life and 70% of all land-based species vanished over the course of a couple of million years, an unprecedented rate of species loss. The mass extinction was so extreme that it is so often referred to as the Great Dying, and it drastically reshaped all corners of life on Earth. In addition, this is the only mass extinction ever known to have affected insects, some of the most resilient creatures on the planet. Hey, Cupboard Cat, how are you? We're talking about the times where the Earth almost ended. There are many theories as to the cause of this great dying, including volcanic eruptions, increases in atmosphere, methane, an asteroid, and even acid rain. Another suggestion is that the carnage was caused by Pangaea, a supercontinent that was singular in mass, and at the time its shape must have stagnated ocean currents and caused a massive deoxidization of the sea. To this day, researchers worldwide continue to explore the possibilities. Freezer burned moose. Is moose good? Asking for a friend. I feel like moose would be really good. After this one, we'll talk about some demons. This shit scares me. Like, end of the world stuff. End of the world stuff always scares me. It has always scared me. I don't know why. It used to send me in like crazy panic attacks. The Cretaceous extinction wiped out the dinosaurs. Also known as the KT extinction, This is arguably the most famous mass extinction event of all. It put an abrupt end to the reign of the dinosaurs and was directly responsible for the rise of mammals. Dinosaurs weren't the only victims of the disaster, as many as 70% of all species were killed off during this event. Non-avian dinosaurs, pterosaurs, ammonites, and large marine reptiles that dominated the oceans were all obliterated. Even the mammals that would go on eventually to survive and repopulate the planet didn't escape unscathed, as species from all walks of life were affected. The most popular and widely accepted theory as to what caused this terrible extinction is the asteroid impact, powerful enough to significantly alter the Earth's homeostasis. There's a lot of geographical evidence to support this claim, including a large deposit of iridium found in the soil at the time. Iridium is rare on Earth, but it can commonly be found on asteroids. The asteroid that hit the Earth is theorized to have been about 6 miles wide and created a crater to the Gulf of Mexico with a radius of over 100 miles. This impact would have filled the air with debris, causing tremendous degradation in the atmosphere and killing off nearly every animal over 55 pounds. Great flu at the start of the last century, millions dead, and also the plague, which is still around. Yes, this is very accurate. My thing that's kind of crazy is that the flu, which is mostly different every year, it could always, masticize into something else, completely different. What I think is worrying to me anyway, considering the COVID and all of that, is what's going to happen when COVID meets, the seasonal flu. Are they going to be similar enough to bind to one another and mutate into the COVID super flu? What's going to happen? I don't think we've had any flu cases yet. I don't think, anyway. The Holocene extinction is happening right now. According to a 2015 analysis of human hunting behaviors, researchers believe that humans should be considered super predators. Unlike other apex predators who hunt in ways that sustain an equilibrium between predator and prey populations, studies show that human predation habitats. Oh my god, can't read. Studies show that human predation habits may be inherently unstable. Our ruthless efficiency when it comes to hunting is a unique trait in the animal kingdom. When animals hunt, they often target the youngest, most vulnerable prey. This minimizes potential risks of injury for the predators, and the most developed adult prey have the opportunity to repopulate. This is not true with humans, who are able to hunt adults of any species with relative ease due to the tools that minimize risk for human hunters. As a result, humans consume fish populations roughly 14 times as quick as marine animals, and even apex predators like bears and lions are being hunted at 9 times the normal rate. While the issue of human involvement in climate change has increased extinction species rates, they can cause a division in the political world. There's a broad consensus in the scientific community that humans are largely responsible for the catastrophes. This is a well-documented fact, and the certain gases produced by human activity are primary drivers in the current global warming trend. In this trend, we have massive impacts on the environment. As for extinction rates, experts say that the current rate is possibly between 10,000 and 100 times faster than normal. That means that we could possibly be losing 2,000 unique species every year. Although the methods of confirming extinction rates are hotly debated, the fact remains that humans are having a mass effect on the environment. Yeah, they may or they may not. We don't know. Yeah, humans are scary because they I really think what it is that like some of us don't have the self-control to curb what we're used to. For example, they say that the billionaires and the top 1% are the ones that use the most as far as resources, which are totally true. They're adapted to living a specific lifestyle. They're adapted to having all of these extravagant things and all of that. So they use all of, they're basically cleaning us out. Yes, we are like a virus, which is why, Mother Nature, like white blood cells, are trying to eradicate us with things like COVID and viruses. It's so funny because, like I was saying earlier, like me and my husband have been watching things about space lately. Like we watch how the universe works. We've just been like, we watch it before we go to bed. And it's really crazy. You look at the the mapping that they've done of the universe. You look at, how they think that the universe looks, and it really looks a lot like nerves. Like if they show you a photo of the human nervous system and the human nervous map, it really looks just like human nerves and how they are photographed or how they're seen. And you just kind of have to wonder, are we just some kind of like cell in somebody's body somewhere? Like you never really know. Crazy shit. Like we don't know where we came from, truth be told. We honestly do not. The Pliocene supernova nearly vaporized the ozone layer. We were talking about this as well. Evidence in the last few decades suggests that Earth may have been hit with a massive dose of radiation from a nearby supernova within the last 10 million years. Some scientists believe that this supernova severely damaged the Earth's ozone layer and possibly triggered an extinction event. Two different star systems have been implicated in possible culprits of this radiation burst: the Scorpius Centaurus Association and the Tucana Hologremon Group. Both were relatively close to Earth, less than 400 light years away. At the time of the supernova, but more evident at the time of the supernova they were more than 400 light years away, but more evidence is needed to pinpoint the exact location of the culpable star. Even looking for like into things about like extinction, like what we've been through and stuff like that. What's your project about? Ooh, I'm interested in that. That sounds so interesting. Yeah. Yeah, very different viruses. Well, didn't they say that COVID is like different strains? Like there's the strain that you lose your sense of smell and the sense of taste, that those are two separate versions of the virus. One has a higher, I guess, recovery rate than the other. Is that true, or am I making that up? Oh yeah, it's so funny that you mentioned that cupboard because we were saying yesterday, me and my husband, that I don't know what we saw, but like if we're the rare kind of species, like if aliens, if they are out there, they say, hey, I've seen a human before. Like we're the ones that are kind of like not common. And the antigenic shift. Ooh, that sounds cool. The antigenic shift. Let me Google that. So, the antigenic shift is the process by which two or more different strains of a virus or strains of two or more viruses combine to form a new subtype having a mixture of the surface antigens with the two or more original strains. Yeah, that's kind of like what I don't want. I'm not afraid, But I think that that is a possibility with COVID and seasonal flu. Because if that, I mean, it could happen also with like stomach flu, couldn't it? Like COVID could mix with stomach flu, and then you would have like stomach flu mixed with COVID, which I personally think would be terrible, awful. The late Devonian extinction killed 75% of all life on Earth. More spooky stories. Yeah, no, I was looking at spooky stories. There really isn't, there's not really a lot out there right now. Let me see. No sleep. I'll definitely check out Red Dwarf. Hold on, let me message my husband. COVID and the flu seem to be a little too different in genetics to be able to be affected. Granted, there aren't too many studies in the COVID genome yet. Yeah. Yeah, I definitely feel that. My friend recommended a great story called I Work for a Theme Park, and only half the monsters are paid actors from No Sleep. That sounds good. Hold on. Let me see. I think I've seen that. Yeah, here it is. I found it. Oh, this is kind of a new one. It was 6 months ago. Okay, so we're going to do this one. True horror stories from Reddit. Life is a horror story, Brian, let me tell you. Okay. Can you guys hear me okay? To itch my fake chin. I should start off by explaining a couple of things. Our park doesn't focus on the specific theme. We have 4 sections that are fenced off from one another. There's a spooky one, a western one, an old-timey Hollywood one, and there's one that looks like everything there is made of candy. We get a lot of visitors, mostly families and young couples. Every single one of us actors, the actual actors, is assigned to a specific one of the other things. The ones that aren't actors but pretend to be. Now, you must be wondering why a park would keep around non-human creatures that pose a potential threat to its visitors, and of course, you'd have to ask management for that exact answer. My best guess, however, is that they are in fact good employees. They don't need to be paid, look extremely real, and offer a way more authentic experience. Of course, the experience can't be too authentic, if you catch my drift. That's what we, the actual actors, are here for. Every section has 2 actors and 2 of the other ones. We don't have a specific name for them, but we refer to them as pretenders, not actors or monsters most of the time. Our main objective is to keep the one we're assigned to under control. Make it seem like they're actors too, not strange beings we don't have or don't know the origination of. Take my monster as an example. I work at a horror-themed section, That means that my territory are the two fun houses, the larger of which is hospital themed, the indoor roller coaster, and the other really cool outdoor one that winds around the gigantic skull. The roller coaster goes in through its mouth, comes out through one eye, and goes back in through the other. It's some genius design, really. I spent my day walking around in costume, either chasing the visitors with my whip, which, for clarification, is part of my role, or leading it around by its chain that is attached to the iron collar around its neck. God help us if that thing ever comes off. The one I've been assigned to is tall, broad, and has black, surprisingly fluffy fur, a round, flat face, and two big ram horns on the top of its head. Its eyes are two large red buttons, and its mouth holds a set of long, shiny, sharp fangs. Its tongue usually hangs out of its maw, black drool dripping down from it constantly. Its official name is Mr. Scratch on a cord of its oversized claws, but I call it the sock puppet. Mr. Scratch is quite obviously a costume. He moves sluggishly, and there are even seams and stitchlings that can be seen in places. The costume itself is a living, breathing thing. You wouldn't know it if you were to see it walking by. However, I found out pretty soon, on my first day actually. When they told me they had given me the acting job because of my physical strength and that they needed me to take care of a monster of sorts, I was dumbfounded. Then again, my job interview had included questions like, would you describe yourself as relatively fearless? And if you were to get attacked by a wild animal, would you A, fend it off, B, run for your life and call for help, or C, hide? So the warning signs were there. But of course, my first reaction was disbelief, which, by the way, was replaced with stern, cold realization in record time on the day that I started working my acting job. My manager, Dale, a grumpy, douchey guy in his late 20s, had me dress up in the costume I'd been wearing for nearly every day for 3 years now. It's hard to describe the kind of goth monster hunter outfit which comes with a whip, but it looks really fancy and agreeably comfortable. Dale unloaded the large plastic bag he had been carrying from his shoulder and threw it onto the ground in front of me. You'll find a lamb shank and the metal leash in there, he said curtly, nodding at the bag. A lamb shank? I inquired. Dale gave me a sleazy, yellow-teethed grin. We found it likes lamb, he replied, as if that explained anything at all. He took out a small key from his pocket and walked over to the cage. I'll let it out for you, but just this once you can tame it. Once you've gotten that over with, I'll give you the key. Won't be wasting any more of my time doing your job then. Part of me still thought that he was messing with me, but I was beginning to have my doubts. He proceeded towards the cage and turned his key inside the lock. The door sprang open with a creaky noise, and Dale stepped aside. At first, nothing happened. Then, from the part of the cage that had not yet been reached by the sparse of the early morning sunlight, the thing they called Mr. Scratch emerged. It exited the cage as a slow, menacing pace on all fours, but once it was outside, it rose to its hind legs and raised its head, slowly opening its mouth only for its long, gooey tongue to drop out. I stared at the moving costume. Then Dale, I was very close to losing my composure. Are you kidding me? I asked. Tell that idiot in the costume to cut the crap. If you guys think you can mess with this new one. But the look on Dale's face was serious. He almost seemed a bit frightened. Feed it, he hissed. Feed it and then put it on a leash. I shook my head and rolled my eyes, but decided to play along. I bent down and picked up the plastic bag, produced the large lamb shank from inside, and waved it at the moving costume. Come and get it, I sang, feeling immensely stupid for talking to a person like I would a dog. The thing came bounding towards me at a surprising speed and ripped the shank out of my hand. When its teeth sank naturally into the meat, and I watched the creature tear it to shreds and gobble it down, I realized that I was not looking at a person in a costume. Gripped by a sudden boldness, I slowly took a few steps towards it, not back, reached out and let my palm travel over its shiny black fur. It was warm. I could feel its chest rise and fall and the muscles underneath its skin pulsing, moving. I was staring at the thing with wide eyes, not believing what I was seeing. Finally, I sprang back into action and picked up the leash from the bag. I attached it to the metal choker, and after making sure I had a good grip on it, I gave an experimental pull. The beast's head jerked towards me as I stumbled backwards in shock, but quickly managed to regain my footing. Luckily, the thing seemed to be more interested in its meal than me. Dale came strolling over and gave me a pat on the shoulder, for which, for the record, was only a friendly gesture I'd ever gotten from him. He handed me the key for Mr. Scratch's cage and told me to make sure that I never lost it. I later asked him jokingly if the creature had ever attacked any of its other caretakers, to which he let out a loud laugh before answering and suddenly had a quite serious tone. No. Well, with one exception. Being? I offered. Dale laughed once more, adding, Just this guy before you. He was good at his job, but we had to let him go. You can't be the monster tamer if both your legs are missing. Upon seeing my startled expression, he smirked and told me not to let it get to me. He was sure Mr. Scratch liked me better. He's most certainly not reading this, so I feel safe here when I say that Dale is an asshole. In regards to the monster, I've already mentioned that I've taken to calling him the sock puppet. After reading my description of him, I bet you can't see where I'm coming from. The sock puppet and I are on pretty good terms, by the way. He's never really caused me any problems. I usually walk around the park, and sometimes let him dash forward to jump scare a visitor, only to then pull him back and hiss at the visitor not to get too close to him. That's our favorite trick. He's run off on me twice, but those are stories for another day. All in all, Mr. Scratch and I get along pretty well. Too bad you can't say that about some of the other actors and their pretenders. When talking about my coworkers, I guess it only makes sense to start with the one that works in the same part of the park as me. That would be Darius. He's very nice, but easily stressed. He talks a lot about wanting another job, but either that's an empty phrase or his just hasn't found one, because he's still around after 3 years of me working here. I met him on my second day of the job. Of course, Dale had failed to introduce me to any of my colleagues. He had simply given me a short overview of who I was and who I was to meet and what I was to expect. He hadn't put much effort into this explanation. I was on my way to Mr. Scratch's cage in the early morning, about half an hour before the park's opening that time of day. I was already dressed up and ready to release the sock puppet, carrying with me the metal leash and the bag of dog treats, both of which dropped when I collided with the man at the doctor's outfit, who had seemingly come out of nowhere. By his fake blood-smeared lab coat and the surgical face mask dangling around his neck, I determined him to be another actor. "Hey, I'm Darius. You must be the new tamer," he stammered. And without giving me a time to answer, I added, "Really need your help right now." "Okay," I responded, taking aback. "What's going on?" "Did Dale already tell you about them?" he asked, and I nodded. He seemed relieved. "Oh, thank God. Okay, so I have to watch out for this one myself. She's like a zombie nurse. Hard to describe, but you'll know when you see her. Either way, we can't really put her on a leash like Scratch, so we let her roam around this part of the park freely, under my supervision, of course. But I kind of lost track of her, and now I don't know where she is. We can have her stroll around the kid-friendly sections to the visitors, but they'll freak out. You've got to help me, please. We don't have much time." I abandoned the leash and the dog's treats, and two of us were on our way. Darius told me that he had already looked for her in our section, so he had to be in one of the others. Our first guess was at the Hollywood one, since she was pretty right next to ours. While we didn't find her there, Darius made use of our one-time informing me about the workings of the park in a bit more detail. All the not actors are put into cages overnight to be kept from wandering off. Half an hour before opening time, they're being let out. He also told me that a few bits about some of the other monsters, but said that it would be best for me not to find out myself. We didn't pass any of the others on our way to the Hollywood section, but we did find the nurse. She was standing next to a food booth, the owner of which thankfully had not yet arrived. She had her back turned to us and was swaying slightly. Her thigh-length nurse costume was smeared with red stains, not unlike that of Darius, but something told me that no fake blood had been used on hers. "Thank God. There she is," Darius muttered. "Dale would have killed me." "What now?" I asked. "I'll just walk her back to our section. It's as easy as that," he replied. "She's basically brain dead." I watched as he approached her, grabbed her by the shoulder, and turned her around. I nearly gagged upon seeing her face. Half of the lower portion of her jaw was missing. The other half was dangling loosely off of her head. Blood was steadily dripping from her tongue, reminding me that of Mr. Scratch. She was completely unresponsive. Her eyes were staring past me and Darius into the distance. If she knew we were there, she wasn't letting on. I followed Darius, who was leading the nurse by her shoulders, back to the entrance of the horror-themed section. There were still 10 minutes left before the park would let visitors in. Upon realizing this, I hurried to release the sock puppet from its cage and put its back on its leash, and that was that, basically. The sight of the undead nurse may have grossed me out for a little while, but I learned pretty soon that she wasn't the kind that I needed to fear. There are some much worse things in the park other than her. Part 2. Okay, I'm going to go AFK for like 1 second, then I'm going to read part 2. I'll be right back. Okay, we back. To get a drink. Adult beverage. Oh. Oh, you put a link of a good story in the Discord channel? Okay, cool. Okay, so this is part 2. It's called You Already Know the Rules. Sleep with your feet towards the door. Oh, God. No, I have never read that, but that sounds really good. Yeah, I'll definitely do that one after this. This story is like 12 parts. Not 12 parts, but it's really long. It's, no? It's 18 parts. Okay, we're going to start. Those of you who've read my first post will know that half of the actors at the amusement park I work at aren't really actors. We'll call them pretenders. Not actors or monsters, plain and simple. Also, just saying, I had some trouble thinking of a shorter and less misleading title this time. I get it, I had it coming, but the joke about the unpaid actors got old really fast. It appears I have to preface this one by answering some frequently asked questions regarding Mr. Scratch. Yes, I do give him scritches and belly rubs and all that stuff from time to time. I often find myself treating him like my pet, even though I really shouldn't be doing that. Due to his size and strength, I've not yet attempted to play or wrestle with him, nor do I wish to try anytime soon. About his anatomy, I guess I could have made myself more clear. Imagine a huge, detailed costume as it would be worn by an actor at a theme park. Now, imagine the costume as an animal. The outer layer is made of fabric and the fur artificial, but there's a whole bunch of functioning organs, blood and muscle tissue inside. It's a costume, and it's a living, breathing thing. And it does defecate. For some reason, a lot of you wanted to know that. They clean out the cage once a day, and I'm walking him in and out of it. I also mentioned him running off before. He only did it twice, to be honest. It wasn't that big of a deal. The first time it was actually my fault. My hands had grown sweaty from having held the leash for so long, and he was a bit of a funky mood that day. So when I gave the chain one hard pull, I lost my grip and he flew out of my hand. He didn't get very far either. I'm a fast runner, and he only managed to make it to one of the ice cream parlors before I caught up with him. I got my hands back on the leash just as Dale, my manager, came running up to me. Upon noticing I had gotten the sock puppet under control, he let out a sigh and muttered, "Close shave, idiot," under his breath as he passed me. I don't want to talk about the second time he ran off. It was nasty, and the only way I sleep soundly at night is knowing that it wasn't my fault. All in all, the sock puppet barely acts up, unlike some of the others. You would think that the worst not actors are from our part of the park, the horror section. But while the undead nurse and Mr. Scratch might be more creepy looking, the pretenders one should actually be more, oh my god. They are creepy looking. The pretenders one should actually be afraid of are not under my or Darius' care. And this is what leads us to the neighboring section. The amusement park I work at might not be the biggest, but it's not modest by any means. This is proven by the most flashy and beautiful section, the Wild West one, or as we call it, Twin Vale Point. This name is painted in large black letters onto wooden signs welcoming visitors to this Western-style town. You'll find the most gorgeous, old-fashioned wood roller coaster there. It's my personal favorite, and I'm guilty of sneaking rides on it during break times. There aren't many visitors around when I do this. Oh, it's a filter. Thanks. Where did I lost it. Other than that, I make it a point not to get too close to Twin Vale Point at any time. The setup is quite beautiful and a refreshing contrast to the grid-marked black and gray colors that I'm usually surrounded by while working in my ghost town. But the western section also happens to be home to one of the pretenders that really freaks me out. The Laughing Cowboy. Technically, I shouldn't be able to encounter him as often as I do. Twin Vale Point is a bit farther away from the horror section, but somehow, and don't ask me why, our paths keep crossing anyway. The first time I met him was when I was already 1 month into the job. By then I had gotten used to the way things work. Even I'd enjoy my daily walks with Mr. Scratch, but I'd also learned that it's important to give him a bit of a break from time to time. It was a particularly busy day and the park was bustling with visitors. I'd been walking the sock puppet around for about 3 hours straight, and I had noticed him getting a bit tired. So I brought him back to his cage. It had been newly cleaned and padded out with some fresh hay. He seemed really relieved and happy, marched inside once I let him off his leash. I locked the door and behind him and made sure that there was nobody behind him. Now, you need to know that during seasons of which we expect a lot of visitors, us actors carry around walkie-talkies in case something happens and we need to inform the others. There aren't management issued. Dale could give less of a damn about if we had hard times or not. Some days, an actor just came up with the idea and bought a bunch of them. So, it was one of these busy seasons that I had just arrived in the plaza when I heard a portable radio come crackling to life. I quickly walked over to the deserted corner behind the booth and pulled it out, where I had it tucked into my waistband. Hello? Hi, anyone from the horror section? Guys, I need someone from the horror section, please. Come in. Please hurry. Raising the speaker to my mouth, I responded, "Horror section speaking, what's the matter?" The distorted voice on the other end stayed silent for a little while before finally answering. "Oh, I get it. You must be the new tamer. Are you with Mr. Scratch right now?" "No." "He's in his cage. What's the matter?" "Okay, so I hope I'm not overwhelming you with this, but I'm gonna need you to come with me. Something is here. It's urgent. This is Mitchell from Twin Vale speaking. The not actor I'm assigned to just ran off. I lost sight of him and I can't find him anywhere, and I think he's in your section." "Shoot, okay, man, what's he look like?" Mitchell cleared his throat. Cowboy attire, large hat, leather vest, chaps and boots, cleft lip, and black teeth." "Any idea where he might be at?" I asked. "Yes, he's run off into your break room once or twice before. I don't know, maybe he likes it or something, but chances are he's in there." "Got it. I'll check it out. In case I find him, can you wait for me by the entrance?" "Will do. See you then. Oh, wait, one more thing. He doesn't talk, but he laughs an awful lot. Don't let it get to you. He only wants to creep you out." "All right, I'll remember that."
After this rather bizarre conversation, I instantly set out for the break room. The one in our part of the park, which is not very large, but it offers space for Darius and me to change clothes. A table we sometimes eat at, as well as a small break room with merely a sink and a toilet. Upon entering the room, I immediately spotted him. A man with a cowboy hat sitting at our table with his back turned to me. I cleared my throat. Hello?
I was just really trying to sound confident, but something about the way he was sitting perfectly still and the strange silence that hung in the air made my skin crawl. Hold on. Someone tell Elf to shut up. You're going to have to return to Mitchell, I said firmly, hoping the predator would not notice the slight quiver in my voice. You don't belong here. Now get moving. No reply. Instead, the cowboy's shoulders began shaking slightly. Dude, you're starting to get on my nerves. Get up and walk your ass back to the western section this instant, I ordered, taking a few slow, careful steps towards him. Again, no response. The quivering of his shoulders grew stronger. You hear me? Come on. Please. I need you to get back to work. I walked just a little bit closer and hesitantly reached out to touch his back. The second my hand made contact with the leather of his vest, his head suddenly jerked back. He didn't turn around, he just threw his head back and stared up at me with wide eyes. I instantly backed away blindly, unable to break his gaze. His mouth opened, stretched into a wide, eerie smile, and I saw that his teeth were completely black, just like Mitchell had told me. I remember absent-mindedly taking notice of the cleft in his upper lip as well. A low, rumbling chuckle erupted from his throat. The cowboy stood up slowly, his neck still bent backward so he can keep looking at me. It was a grotesque sight. Finally, he turned around, cackling loudly. He straightened his hat and proceeded towards me, holding out his hand. I stared at him, hesitant to take it, but eventually relented. His palm felt cold and clammy. Yeah, nice to meet you. Are you gonna get going now? I stammered, unsure of what else to say. His laughter had faded, and he was now regarding me with a strange, void smirk on his face. He didn't let go of my hand. When I tried to pull away from him, his grip strengthened. I could feel my heart beating faster and faster in my chest. The cowboy was simply standing there, holding my hand and grinning at me with his black teeth. I didn't know what to do. Trying not to look scared, I watched as droplets of equally black saliva formed on his lower lip. They soon grew and began running down his chin in tiny streams. I felt some of them land on my hand, in which he was squeezing so painfully hard. A wave of relief washed over me when he let go of my hand. He then reached up to his collar and began unbuttoning his shirt. I quickly took a few steps back, raising up my hand. What are you... Oh no, man, you keep that on, I ordered. I didn't like where this was going. To my surprise, he actually listened this time. He stopped and instead peeled back one side of his shirt, allowing me to see the upper part of his body. There were 3 bullet holes in his chest. The skin around them was frayed, and the flesh in the holes themselves was gray and dark. It looked rotten. I gagged slightly and turned my head. I could hear him start to giggle again.
His snicker grew into a fit of laughter when I dared to look at him again. He had buttoned up his shirt and was doubling over. I merely stood there watching in disbelief as his eerie, throaty cackle seemed to echo off the walls into the whole entire break room. Suddenly, the door was thrown open and the light flooded in this rather dim space. There was a man standing in the doorway. He was dressed as a sheriff out of his old Wild West movies. The cowboy's smile instantly faded from his face when he turned to look at the sheriff, visibly disappointed. The man dashed forward and grabbed the cowboy by the collar, pulling him away from me. "Here I am, turning my back to you for one damn second, and the next thing I know, you're off to harass the new employee." He grunted as he flung him aside. The cowboy quickly regained his footing and looked up at the attacker with narrowed, hateful eyes. The sheriff introduced himself to me as Mitchell, and I accompanied him back to the entrance to Twin Vale, where we said our goodbyes. Mitchell had kept a firm grip on the not actor's upper arm the whole time. It reminded me of my parents angrily dragging their misbehaving child along. He had told me a couple of things about the cowboy on the way. Due to his humanoid appearance, he could not be led around on a leash, so Mitchell had to observe his every move to keep him from wandering off the boundaries of Twin Vale Point. Usually, he wouldn't cause too many problems, but from time to time he would become a little adventurous. Maybe it was just to annoy Mitchell. Either way, every time he'd gotten to that mood, he would run off and pull a prank or get into some kind of trouble. I don't think he cares what it is he does, as long as he gets on my nerves, he said, slyly glancing at the pretender who was begrudgingly walking beside him. I wouldn't say that the laughing cowboy is the monster I am most scared of. What I find so unnerving about him is that he keeps me in limbo of trying to decide if he's a threat to me or not. He acts all cute around the visitors, always pauses to take photos with them and posing and stuff. The only time he gets disturbing like that is when one is alone with him. Plus, I'm not sure if he really means to do any harm or if he just wants to mess with people. There have been a few instances of him being quite nice to me. One time he even almost saved my life in a way. Since I was already talking about the non-actors that scare me, I believe it's time I told you about the Sugar Plum Fairy. The Sugar Plum Fairy is one of the monsters from the candy theme section. Of course, it's directed mainly at really small children. Not unlike the cowboy, the fairy does not cause a lot of trouble most of the time, except for when she does, she makes a way bigger mess. She has a general appearance of a very short, young woman in a tutu. She wears a bunch of cute accessories in her hair that look like candy. She spends all day ballet dancing in a small cage in the candy section. She never stops moving. But every night when the park closes down and the monsters are brought into their overnight shelters, she goes absolutely berserk. Sure, I can understand she doesn't want to be locked in a cage, but who knows what she would get up to if no one was around to watch her. The person assigned to her is Maxine. She's a very nice girl and we get along really well. Hold on, wait, drink. She's dressed up as a princess and loves nothing more than taking pictures with the visitors. She spends her time hanging around the plaza in the candy section, watching out for the Sugar Plum Fairy. While the fairy never acts up, there's still visitors around. She sure doesn't hold back when we're the only ones left in the park. This results in Maxine often needing our assistance in catching her and locking her up for the nighttime. That one night, I had just taken Mr. Scratch to his cage. Maxine radioed over for me to come.
Most of the other actors had not quite finished their work yet and were still busy taking care of their own assigned pretenders, so I had to go and help her catch the fairy. I made my way over to the candy section where Maxine was waiting for me. She had already changed out of her costume and was in her normal, everyday clothes. She hurriedly explained to me that the Sugar Plum Fairy had run off when she had entered the stage to take her back to the small trailer she spends the night in, and was now roaming the park. We split up and looked for her, and I admit I was more than just a little bit nervous. The Sugar Plum Fairy doesn't ever show you her real face or face to the visitors. She keeps it hidden under that thing, that mask, which looks like a face but isn't. It's hard to describe. So I went down to the booths to look for her. It wasn't the first time I had encountered her, so I knew what to expect, but when I found her sitting on the roof of one of the closed food stands facing me, I nearly got a heart attack. After I'd caught my breath again, I carefully continued to approach her. "Hey," I said softly. I had learned early on that it's best to not anger her. "Would you, come down here, please?" I reached up my hand for her to help her jump off. "Please? For me?" I breathed a sigh of relief when she placed her tiny hand in mine. Moments later, she landed gracefully on the ground on her tiptoes. No idea how she does that, by the way. She just let go of my hand, and for a moment we just looked at each other, smiling. Then her eyes suddenly rolled back into her head. She reached up and pinched the skin on her neck between her fingers and slowly peeled it off all the way up to the forehead, nearly stripping her entire head off of its skin and revealing what I already knew was underneath. The true face of the Sugar Plum Fairy consists entirely of one large, razor-sharp beak, not unlike that of a kraken. She opened it wide, hissing and snarling at me. I stumbled backwards, not sure what to do. My hand reached for the whip on my waistband, my only means of self-defense, only to remember that I had already changed out of my costume. I continued to back away. The Sugar Plum Fairy slowly and menacingly proceeded towards me on her tiptoes. I screamed for Maxine to help me, knowing full well that it was useless. By the time she'd find me, the monster would have probably already managed to take a good chunk out of my arm or something. The only option I had left was to run. I think I mentioned previously that I'm quite fast, but apparently the Sugar Plum Fairy is faster. She came bounding after me in long, graceful leaps, sometimes stopping to twirl or hop in place. It must have looked funny from an outside perspective. Still, she effortlessly managed to catch up to me and blocked my path. Her tiny hands pushed me to the ground with a strength betraying her small, delicate frame. I felt her step on my stomach, painfully pushing the tip of her foot into my soft flesh. Then, all of a sudden, she pulled back. I hadn't seen or heard him coming yet. When I looked up, the cleft-lipped cowboy from Twin Vale Point was standing over me. The look on his face was stern, and he had placed one of his hands on the fairy's shoulder. She hissed at him and snapped her beak into his direction a couple of times, but he remained unfazed. He just took her by the arm and calmly walked off with her. I pushed myself off the ground and followed them. He'd lead her to the trailer, open the door, and helped her climb inside before closing the latches and locking her in. I watched in disbelief as he tipped his hat at me before wandering off to the Wild West section. I thought I could hear Mitchell shout something in the lines of, "Where the hell were you?" in the distance. All in all, I think the Sugar Plum Fairy might have been the one that creeps me out the most. The cowboy's a close second, but just because he's so unpredictable. Then again, there's so many of them to choose from, and each pretender just hits another nerve with me, so I really can't tell for sure. There's so many parts of this story. Holy heck. Do you want to continue with this one, or do you want to do the one? Well, I mean, obviously we have to continue with this one eventually. Can't just leave it hanging. Okay, I'll do this one. I work at an amusement park where only half the actors are actual actors. Since I touched on the one not actor from the Western section who left a lasting impression in my last post. I mean, you suggested it either way. I mean, it's a long story, so I mean, there's people watching it, so we'll see it. However, I need to get some things out of the way regarding the Pretender's origins before I get started. None of us actors knew where they had come from or what they are. All of them have been here long before any of us started working our current jobs. Then again, Nathan might know something. He's the other actor from the Twin Veil Point, but I'll get to that in a second. The not actors come in all shapes and sizes. Literally. Sure, most of them share some common traits. For example, 2 of them can talk, and they are extremely restricted in their ability to do so. The other non-actor from the Wild West town can barely be described as a single living being at all. It's an old Western stagecoach pulled by 2 large, beautiful chestnut stallions. The stagecoach itself does not have a coachman. That's where Nathan comes in. Nathan is an actor assigned to the stagecoach. He's the one who steers it. He sits on his coach seat all day, wrapped in an old, ragged blanket. He doesn't talk much. In fact, the only times I've ever heard him really speak or have really ever spoken to him, we just exchanged quick greetings. Our interactions never went anywhere past a very awkward introduction. He'd offered me a dead fish handshake, and we stared at each other for a while, once in a while, with none of us knowing how to start a conversation. And that was it. I got burps. My eyeballs are doing a weird thing. For all I know, he never leaves his coach seat either. Sure, he probably goes home sometime in the evening, but I've never seen him leave. If Mitchell hadn't told me he was an actor, I'd probably have thought he was a pretender himself. He sure is creepy, too. I sometimes wonder if maybe the stagecoach has turned him into a part of itself, if he may be a pretender. The stagecoach only really starts getting weird at nighttime. During the day, Nathan just drives it around Twin Veil Point, much to the amusement of our visitors. The horses act really friendly around them too. However, as soon as the sun sets, they change. The horses go from docile and gentle to raging and furious. Their eyes start to glow with a blinding white light, making them look alien and eerie. I've seen them buck and even wildly chased through the different parts of the park, pulling the stagecoach along with them as if it had no weight whatsoever. Therefore, it is Nathan's task to take these horses to the fenced meadow in the back of the park come nightfall, where they can't be seen or reached by visitors. According to Mitchell, who apparently learned a lot about Nathan's strange occupation from working alongside him, the chestnuts refuse to be separated from their stagecoach. Whenever something tries to take off their harness, they start going completely berserk. They'll buck and kick and neigh as if they were being slaughtered. Drink. Like I said, Nathan and I don't talk much, meaning that my contact with the stagecoach is highly limited. So most of the time I only spot it in its normal, peaceful stance. I've touched on this in my previous post, but I really love Twin Vale Point for its dry, old-timey charm. I'm a big fan of Wild West movies too. I've caught myself a couple of times sneaking after the stagecoach in hopes of seeing it do its magic, but my curiosity was never rewarded. Instead, the only times I've actually witnessed the horses act up were when I was unprepared and busy and therefore couldn't really enjoy it. I feel really bad for liking to watch the stagecoach turn weird, but the few times I've seen it were insanely impressive. It really did look like something out of a movie. I didn't want to come back to the Laughing Cowboy, but in regards to the stagecoach, I guess I have to. I've noticed his tendency to, in lack of a better term, mess around on it. One time, I saw him standing atop of its roof. There were a bunch of visitors standing below him taking pictures and hollering. There was a little boy amidst the crowd who seemed to be really into the stagecoach, and the cowboy actually bent down and lifted him up so he can stand on top of the carriage with him. I remember the kid being insanely happy about it, clapping and squealing like crazy. I must admit, the scene was a bit heartwarming. Other times, the cowboy would just lay or sit down on top of the roof and ride around with Nathan. Of course, the latter can't be bothered with that, although I've seen him try to shoo him off by occasionally making use of his horsewhip, only to provoke signature fits of laughter from his unwanted passenger. My disadvantage in this is that the cowboy in turn appears to have noticed my own tendency to follow the stagecoach around, resulting in him staring at me from atop its roof with a wide smile on his face. I can't stand his gaze for long, so whenever he's around the carriage, I make it a point to not get too close. Speaking of things I can't stand, I simply have to mention the other not actor from the candy section. While the Sugar Plum Fairy is scary enough as she is, this one doesn't really have to get aggressive to make me run for it. Let me preface this by saying that I absolutely hate mimes. I don't know what it is, but I just don't like them. I don't think they're entertaining, and their face paint just looks weird. Plus, their exaggerated motions and expressions are sort of unsettling to me. But it's not like I'm actually scared of them. However, if there's one mime worth being scared of, it's the one of the candy section of our amusement park. The actor assigned to him is Anne. She's a sweet, bubbly girl who I get along with splendidly. Her costume is a clown outfit, but it's really cute and pink and frilly, not one of those creepy ones you see in the horror movies. The kids love her, and for some reason, that's just absolutely beyond me. They also love the mime. He spends all day hopping around his part of the park, making balloon animals for the children and handing out candy to them. However, not unlike the laughing cowboy, the mime has these days on which he's in a bit of a strange mood. Thankfully, one can determine what kind of state he's in just by looking at him. So all Anne really needs to do to assess his behavior in the morning and then decide on whether or not she should let him to roam the park that day. He's the only human-like pretender who sleeps in a sheltered cage instead of a trailer or something similarly comfortable. The mime's shelter. Sorry. The mime shelter. I lost my place. I'm sorry. The mime shelter might have been a bit of a prison cell to look at, but at least there's a roof above it, and there's blankets and pillows and stuff. He's simply too dangerous on his bad days. It's very easy to tell when he's not fit to be out. The first time I saw him like that was on a cool morning in early June. They were expecting a ton of visitors that day, so the other actors and I had decided we were going to be using our walkie-talkies. I was in Darius' break room, the latter not having yet arrived, and in the process of dressing up, to my surprise, a portable radio came to life. "Hi, anyone here already?" Anne's cheerful voice came through the small device. I grinned. "Hey, Anne." "Glad I'm not the only one who's early," she replied. "Hey, could you come over? I kind of need a second opinion here." "Oh? Trouble with the mime?" I asked. "Yeah, sort of. I'm not really sure if I should let him out today. He seems fine, but I have a bad feeling about this. I can't explain why. I'm not really sure." "Okay then, give me a minute. I'll head over right away," I assured her. I wasn't fully dressed up yet, but I didn't want to keep Anne waiting, so I walked over to the candy section in my black frilly Monster Hunter dress shirt and yoga pants. A combination that caused my coworker to laugh at me for about 2 minutes straight before finally getting to the point. She led me over to the mime's shed, which was hidden behind a row of booths. Looking through the bars of the cage, I found the mime standing in there, upright and perfectly still. He looked back at us with a thin smile. He was very quiet. "I feel like he's messing with me," she explained in a low voice when we were out of earshot from the pretender again. "He's never been so calm before. He's usually way more excited." "Yeah, but come on, you really think he is, like, smart enough to try and deceive you?" I asked. "I always thought you two were on good terms." "Yes, but I can just say for sure this time. Do you think I should let him out?" I frowned. We can't keep him in there if he's not acting up. I mean, he hasn't done anything wrong. I think it would be fair. I've never seen him be hostile before, but this really doesn't look too bad. Anne sighed. "You're right. I guess I was just worrying too much again." She reached into her pocket and retrieved a small key, which she turned inside the door lock, and then continued to unlatch the 2 additional deadbolts. She opened the door and the mime stepped outside. "Hey," she greeted him. "Sorry I kept you waiting." He didn't react. Instead, he sunk to his knees and threw his head back. "Oh, crap," I could hear Anne mutter before he opened his mouth. A choking sound came from somewhere in his throat as his lips and his jaws proceeded to part wider and wider. What he did next was indescribable. Have you ever seen the ballet dance The Spider
by Melina Sardova. It's an amazing performance, but when the mime dropped on all fours with all corners of his mouth stretched all the way to his ears and began to hiss at us, it was not quite as pretty. He was standing on the tips of his fingers and toes, his back bent at an unnatural angle. I cursed myself for not having dressed up completely before leaving the break room. My whip might have served as a good means of defense. The mime scuttled past us in alarming speed, and Anne and I exchanged quick, knowing glances before the sprinting off after him. I can't believe he actually tricked me, Anne panted. She was a bit out of shape and unable to keep up with him for very long. I'm sorry, I shouted as I passed her, continued to pursue the not actor. The mime was incredibly fast. I found myself wheezing and gasping for air about 8 minutes of following him through the candy section. Eventually, I had to stop to catch my breath, and before I knew it, I had lost sight of him. I cursed. Suddenly, out of the corner of my eye, I saw a shadow vanish behind the stage of the Sugar Plum Fairy. She had not been let out yet, so the stage itself was deserted, but I was certain I could hear the tapping of feet behind it. I made my way around its back, but he wasn't there. At least, that's what I thought before something wet and warm hit my head. I slowly backed up to find the mime hovering above me. He was holding onto the stage metal light fixture and staring down at me. His mouth opened unnaturally wide. Drops of saliva were dripping from his tongue, which was hanging out from his maw. I stood frozen in horror for what felt like an eternity, not daring to break the stare of the pretender. I could feel my heart pounding in his chest, in my chest, and my hands beginning to tremble. The mime seemed to slowly, ever so slowly, lowered himself to the ground. Suddenly, I saw something fly past me out of the corner of my eye and collide with the mime's head. The not actor let out a sharp hiss of pain, and I took a step back in time as he lost his grip on the light fixture and fell to the ground. I took my chance and threw myself on top of him to hold him in place, and instantly began to yell for Anne to come and help me. The thing that caused the mime to fall was small but heavy rock. I discovered it lying on the ground next to me while I was waiting for Anne to arrive, still holding the struggling pretender in place. To this day, I have no idea who had thrown that rock, but whoever it was probably spared me a lot of physical pain. I'm not sure if I would have stood a chance against the mime if it weren't for that short but effective distraction. Either way, I can only repeat that I'm not fond of mimes whatsoever, and the one we have in our park sure isn't helping that. Also, Anne has agreed to never take my advice again. As you might expect, I kept apologizing to her for a long while after the incident. Lastly, I should probably mention that I've talked to Maxine about the Sugar Plum Fairy's enclosure. She explained that the trailer she lives in is very secure, a bit old, and that it holds a bed for her to sleep in. Some of you suggest it might be helpful to give her a bigger space to stay in for the night, since all she seems to do is want to dance around, meaning that she would not be as opposed to returning to the trailer. To me and Maxine, this makes total sense. It will also spare us a lot of trouble. We've decided to try and approach Dale about the issue, but I'm not sure any type of conversation with him will lead to positive results. I think I've said it before, but he's a douche. Still, trying doesn't hurt in what we're going to do. Trying doesn't hurt, and that's what we're going to do. I guess we'll just see how it goes. I have a cat screaming at me right now. My nose is stuffing it. Let me
me see what kind of stuff I have for this. Hold on. Let me see. I was getting so tired of that scary face. Why is it gray? Why are we gray? There we go. Oh my god, I have like literally no eyebrows. What cat? Okay. We'll just turn off the camera for now. Oh, it's a very long story, man. We'll leave it at part 4. Are we at part 4? Yes, this is part 4. My shady manager. We're gonna leave it at part 4. I'm gonna stream tomorrow too, so I'm gonna bookmark this. Shady manager. Let me look at the Discord. I'm gonna see. Meow, 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 meow. Yes, Marble. My husband's from England, so like I know that Scotland's like close by. I feel like this is a ritual. Lots of people like rituals. Okay, so we're gonna start this one and then we're gonna finish the other one tomorrow. What time? I'm probably gonna stream around 7. I usually try and stream it like when the sun goes down. I try to anyway. I may go live earlier, but tomorrow we're gonna do like the rando nodding and stuff. So hopefully I'll be able to like do that. I may be posting like Snapchats and stuff from that in my Discord. So feel free to join the Discord. It's in the description of the video. Okay, we're gonna start this. You already know the rules. Sleep with your feet towards the door. I burped. Let me put my microphone closer. I'm always grateful to read posts from others, explaining the rules of particular places. A library where you mustn't interrupt the girl in the reflective jacket who reads collective ESVM poems to herself until midnight. A campsite where you must politely offer some of your food to the faceless people who visit your campfire. An old house where you mustn't look out of the window or you'll hear sounds of bells. Particular places have particular rules. It might be because they're ancient, special, haunted, cursed, or just particularly beautiful places for other things to make their homes. Sometimes you can learn a little from reading others' lists, others' hard-won knowledge of what is or isn't safe. But spirits are petty and varied. One will tear out your tongue if you speak to it. Another will kill you if your rudeness another will kill you for rudeness if you don't. It takes an expert on the area to know. I don't live anywhere quite like this. I live in an old part of Edinburgh. Oh my god, can't say Edinburgh. My husband will kill me. Edinburgh. There's nothing cursed or ancient about my flat. It's actually probably one of the least supernatural places in the city. It's safe. Cities often don't have guardians in quite the same way that rural places have. Forests, lakes, valleys, even big ranches. They'll have owners or rangers or guardians, often passed down through generations or trained and picked carefully by mentors. I like talking to people from those wild places. The guardians, rangers, and the owners of forests and lakes and valleys. I respect the hell out of their attitude, their reverence for the places they watch over. I don't have anything that special. I stumbled into this. I'll tell you that story if you're patient. And while I'd rather die than be impolite to something really ancient and fey, sometimes in cities that you're actually dealing with is a vomit nymph or a minor cocaine spirit that's actually hard to take seriously. But I'm lucky. I tend not to need specific rules. Of course, there's places like the bridge you mustn't walk under if your voice doesn't echo. An author's seat has its fair share of terrifying things. But for the most part, I'm only really concerned by the universal rules, the ones that pretty much apply anywhere, whether it be ancient haunted cathedral or the most mundane cafe. If you're hurrying home between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m., don't look behind you. Make sure your bed has your head further from the door than your feet, and ensure at least one side, preferably two, is against the wall. If you're walking past a room and see a person out of the corner of your eye, but when you check again, it's just an outfit on a coat hanger, don't freak out. But always, always make sure you check again. Break at least one solemn promise before about mid-February of each year. Close your door firmly before sleeping. It's okay if it cracks open so long as it's too narrow for a finger. Stay under your blanket when you sleep. Having a leg out of the blanket is okay, but don't position your feet where they can be seen from anything under your bed. Windows can slide upwards or open outwards, but must never, ever open inwards. If you feel the intense sensation that something is watching you from the window, ideally close the curtains. You can look from your bed or your couch, but never go to the window and look down, and never ever press your face against the glass. Only certain people are safe to sleep in complete darkness. You'll know instinctively if you're one of those who needs to keep the light on or a window open. Don't sleep with someone until you've had at least 3 dates. They can't maintain a good, consistent mimic for more than 2 evenings, so after that, you're safe. On midwinter morning, whichever date you personally celebrate as Winter Festival, ensure there's at least one sock in your home that night that has no pair. There's more, but I don't need to tell you them. See, the universal rules have become a part of us now. Either they're in our biology, things we've known from birth without needing to be taught them, or they're aspects of culture that get most people to obey them without knowing why they're even doing it. Some of them, I think, aren't actually universal. For instance, I think that the rule that you must offer tea, specifically tea, to strangers in your home is only on this island. The creatures that demand it only really live here. I think some of the rules are culturally dependent because of course an arbitrary calendar day isn't actually how most non-humans count New Year. It's about the rhythms of your life and the points in those rhythms where certain things might pay attention to you. Edinburgh doesn't really have many rules that you wouldn't get elsewhere. Not rules that apply to all of it. If you get some hecking specific rules, if you're working in certain parts of the castle at 3 a.m., but really it's just a matter of common sense. It's a very old city, an important city. Scotland is an old, wild country, and it remembers all sorts of things. It's a beautiful city with so many layers to it and so many ghosts. There are things here that you wouldn't imagine, but you don't have to tap on anything 7 times. And if you order a kebab from the main man with a tattoo of a swarm of wasps after taking the last train from Glasgow, look, you didn't know how bad the decision that was, but you damn well knew it was a bad idea. At this point, you're probably wondering who the hell I am. I certainly don't have any official position. I don't own any land here. I'm not a descendant from anyone, and I'm not trained as police or anything. Actually, no human picked me. It seemed random. The night after I moved here, almost 16 years ago, I had the most fantastically vivid dream. I was dancing with the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen. She had flame red hair and wore a tattered copper dress. She danced with a sword in each hand, but I was unafraid. She moved with such clarity of intent, and she inspired me so much with her grace that I was unable to fluidly move around her in perfect timing, and the blades never touched me. I'd never danced in my life, and I can't dance when I'm awake, but she moved me. That's all I can explain. I was woken up by knocking on the door. It was the same woman. I admit, after our dance, I'm feeling a little famished, she said. I invited her in for eggs and bacon. In hindsight, that was stupid. Most magic runs on rules and rituals and the laws of thresholds. Home sanctity, and hospitality are some of the oldest of all. There's plenty of things out there which only need an invite into your home to destroy you, but I'm glad I did. She didn't touch the eggs and the bacon, but she told me it was kind and a respectful offer. The first thing she told me was about Waverley. Well, no, actually, the first thing she told me was that I needed to get a new coffee machine because my old one was going to break in about 5 coffees. The second thing she told me before getting on the train to Stirling, I should check and see if there's a stop at Silvery. There's no Silverly on the line to Stirling, at least not unless I'm at the station. So I checked with friends who confirmed this. It's only there when I am, as far as I know. It's safe for me to get off at Silvery. I have an invitation. It's not safe for you, and you shouldn't try. I saw a teenager try it once, and another man who was probably just counting stops to his normal one and didn't look up from his phone as he got off. That's another one of those stories you can ask me later. I lost where I was. Oh my. Anyway, my day job is in an office and I do things with spreadsheets. It's just, in my spare time, I'm one of those people who helps with the rules. There's actually a fair few of us, with as many people and other beings as there are in a big city, but I don't know the others. I'm writing all of this because apparently some people don't know all the rules. They just don't get it somehow. Their parents didn't teach them, or their instincts are all wrong. So I figured I should write them something that explains them. Some of them are obvious. You fucking know why your closet door must never be wide open enough for a long gray finger to curl out from inside and wrap itself slowly around the door. If you don't, please just imagine your reaction were you to see that. Congrats. Now you know. Some of them you think learned better about. You didn't. Adults know it's safe to put your feet on the cracks between paving stones, but that doesn't mean children are wrong about being dangerous. The edgelings only take small, tender victims. But some are counterintuitive. George, a local nurse, and one of the other part-time guardians called me up yesterday. That was the call that prompted this post. He told me about a awfully weird occurrence at the hospital. Apparently an elderly patient reported waking up at 3 a.m., drenched in sweat, hearing nothing but perfect silence. She looked at the door and walked a sort of, I hesitate to call it a man. Apparently it had arms that were far too long and dragged on the floor. Only a gaping, bloody hole where his eyes should be. A torso that wrapped around in spirals like a knotted rope. The man stopped in the doorway, breathing heavily, and then reached out with one hand. It seemed like his feet couldn't pass the doorway, apparently, but his hands could. Walking his fingers across the floor, then eventually taking a deep breath and supporting the full weight of that awfully long arm, he groped along the beds with the ward until he reached hers. When he touched her feet, his hands weren't cold. They were warm, slimy, and a little suctiony. Something told her to remain perfectly still, not to react, not to give any sign of life. The moist, heavy fingers explored her toes a little, lifted her heel, and dropped off her foot. The long-armed creature sighed heavily. "No tasty eyes here," it whined. "Need tasty eyes." It took a deep breath, coughed up some slime, and whimpered like a child begging for ice cream. "Delicious eyes." And then left. Apparently the doctors think the woman's crazy. There's absolutely no sign of the creature on the hospital's CCTV. No slime where it supposedly coughed. But George is the nurse that helps old people get cleaned up, and he says her feet were sticky. in a way that turned his stomach, and George's stomach is strong enough to clean pus out of the guy who decided to stick his dick up the open surgical wounds into his own arm and then laugh about it over a pint. Mentioned he's damn glad his patient was sleeping with her head and her eyes away from the door and that her feet were towards it. He made sure it's hospital policy to ask all patients to sleep that way. I thought it might be valuable to let you know. Well, heck. That was a crazy story. Did you like that one? I thought like that one. I'm gonna have to tell my husband that one.
Lots of cultures have like rules like that. Pretty amazing rules. I know Hispanic culture does.
I'm thinking we're probably gonna end it until tomorrow. It's 10:42. I'm gonna look for that Red Dwarf show. Are you guys gonna be here tomorrow? Yeah, definitely ask him, see what he says. We'll hang out tomorrow for sure. Like I said, we're going to probably try and do some rando nodding. I think we're going to go to the zoo. So my Snapchat is, if you want to follow me on Snapchat, I need to find my freaking Snapchat because I don't ever freaking know it. Give out my social. So this is my Snapchat. I think my Instagram is the same. Yes, my Instagram is the same. My Twitter is at Getting Spooky. And then Discord. All of this stuff should be here in the description. Let me see. Description. Yeah. That's his list socials. Be sure to join. We watch scary movies on Discord occasionally. Last one we watched was like Mungo, and it was really fun. We try and watch movies and then have like live chat while we're watching it. I'm trying to find like a better way to do it where it's like more real time. What, Elf? You said that you were too drunk. You weren't even trying to like stay. You were like, okay, I'm too drunk. I've had way too much beers. Okay, bye. And then that was it. I was reading stories. I have stuff to do tomorrow. I have literally worked 12. Okay, for those of you who are new to the channel, Elf is who I bully occasionally, like all the time, because he has a really big mouth. So don't mind Elf. But anyway, Elf, I have literally worked 10 hours today. 10 hours. 10 hours of work. And then I came on stream after work. I've been streaming since 8. My butt hurts from sitting in this chair. I want to spend time with my husband. He's in the room watching stuff on TV. Oh, Oh, for sure. It was really a good story, Cupboard. It was super cool story. You guys join my Discord and stuff so we can talk and all that, and then we can like get more stories together.
I'm going to stream tomorrow, probably around 7 or 8ish, same time. I'll get some stories together so we can do that, and I won't have the like freaky mask stuff on. And then we can talk. I can share you guys like my Randonautica stuff. I'll share it on the Discord too if like we do it and like what we find. I'll share videos, so hopefully they'll be cool. But and then we'll play some games if you guys like that. We'll figure it out. You made $700? Well, cool. You can give me 500 of that for a new camera. I'm very glad for your $700, Elf.
I've been in like a real big alien mood. I want to like talk about aliens at some point. Space. Anything space like really freaks me out. I'm trying to get a new camera. Yeah, we'll hang out for sure. Join the Discord. Join all that stuff. And let me talk to my ex-wife. Holy heck. Whoa. Too personal. Too personal, Elf.
Alright, you guys. I'm going to catch you tomorrow. No drinking tomorrow, Elf. We'll play some games. We'll figure it out. We'll play some scary games, tell some scary stories. I may even like do like a live stream of carving pumpkins. Does that sound fun? I have not carved a pumpkin in like freaking ever. Forever. So I may carve a pumpkin. I bought these like super cool Halloween lights. And I can't even hang them up. They're all jacked up. So I may put them behind me to like look cool. We'll see what happens. Yes, yes. Any kind of stories that you guys want to share, definitely share them in Discord because I am so about it. I love talking about. I could talk about spooky stuff literally all day long. So we'll definitely do that. I have like just because I'm in Texas, so I have like a lot of like stuff that's happened around here that's like really weird. So we'll definitely talk about that. It's a spooky season, so it's time for spooky stuff. I want to do spooky stuff like ghost hunting stuff, but I don't think my husband will do it. Plus, it's kind of dangerous. Like, you can't really do that stuff anymore because like people will murder you, and I'm not trying to get murdered. And there's crazy people out there like Elf who are like, you know, crazy. Anyway. Alright, you guys. I love you. It's been really fun. I'm so sorry it's like kind of short, but we've been on for like 2 hours. So it wasn't too short, but I'm going to finish that story tomorrow for you, Sparky Marie. Because that was a really good story. It was just super long. It was like 18 parts. But it was a good story. I love spooky anything. So yes, I will gladly accept it. Okay. I will see you guys tomorrow. Yeah, drop him in Discord. Always. I know that my husband was telling me, because I played this game recently called Infliction, and they had that story about that lighthouse where like the 2 lighthouse keepers like went missing, and it was like in the game, and my husband was like, you know that's true, right? And I'm like, what was true? He was like, yeah, the story about the lighthouse keepers. And I was like, really? And that shit was just so crazy interesting to me. But then they also say that lighthouse keepers always killed each other. Well, not always killed each other, but it was like a common occurrence. So you never know. But they said that like when those lighthouse keepers went missing, that they like literally left like their dinner in the kitchen, like uneaten. Like they had just started eating it, and then they like got up and left in a hurry. So that stuff's like super interesting. But okay. Anyway, I love you guys. I'll see you guys tomorrow, and we'll do some streams. I'll keep you posted of what goes on in the Discord. All right. Talk to you later.